how to create a colourful grid like this in Affinity Photo. Now it's a manual process. Unfortunately there's no, as far as I'm aware anyway, automatic process to create something like this. But how to approach this? Now, see, I created this earlier. What I'm going to do, I'm now going to go to a completely fresh document and I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm not going to go through all the steps because it does take a few minutes to do. So key thing here is to show the grid. So view and show grid. That's very useful because you've got this grid. Now to change the grid, also snapping manager. So view and snapping manager, and you go down here to snap to grid. Make certain that's on. Then view and grid and access manager. So if you want to change the grid, obviously I've got the automatic, very basic grid there. But you've got basic, you can change that, and you can change settings as well as advanced. You can change the space and divisions, etc. No, I'm not going to do that. Just going to go with automatic. Now, for the whole basis of it, I'm just going to go for rectangle tool. So rectangle tool, I'll change the colour there. So, and then you can see the snapping. So you can see that dot here, and it will snap it to that grid. What you can then do is hold down, go to the move tool. That's the key thing. Hold down the Alt or Option key, and then duplicate it. And then again, it will snap there. And I'm going to change the colour as you don't have to do this approach, but I find it just nice just to change the colours as I go. Now I'm not going to go all the way down. I could do that, of course. I could just do that all the way through for the whatever it is, 50 or 60 thing. But I'm avoiding having the colours next to each other. So obviously I want red and I want purple, or red and blue. And that's why it's great to have the swatches here. So you can just quickly select them. Now it's not a huge selection. Of course you can add additional swatches. So you've got a better range of colours. Then another colour there. Now once you've got that, of course, what you can do, you can select all of those, make certain you do select all of them, so all of them are selected, and then go click down there, hold down the Alt or Option key to duplicate, and again hold down the Alt or Option key. Again I'm using the move tool, and you can see it just drags and then clicks into the same position. Now of course you can see what happens, of course, is you get the colours all in line. You don't have to do that. You could of course always go to these and you could change some. So you decide, well, you know what, I'm going to change it just before I go any further. Up to you, of course. Just go over here, maybe go for some colours there, a reasonable set of colours. Don't want that one, so blue, green, blue, and then maybe bright green there, or maybe not, something like that. And then of course you can select that. Now of course you can select, try and select 2 rows. So you can select 2 rows if you want. Hold down the Alt or Option key and you can do that. So you can see very quickly you can create sort of a random grid. Now I just have to check. Sometimes of course you slightly misalign it. You can always move it again. That's not a, and hold down the Alt or Option key, do that. And you've got your design there. Now, of course, that isn't a very random grid, so you can see the colours. But what you can do, you can quickly go up there and then just change them. And then you can visually see which ones you don't like. You don't have to have obviously the colour scheme all the way. Now, sadly, I think Affinity Photo doesn't really have the same sort of colour features. It's got a persona feature, but it would be nice if you could select different things and change the colours a bit easier. But it's got its own quirky way of manipulating colours. Personally, I find it slightly awkward. That's just the way they've done it. Doesn't worry me because I can always use adjustment layers. You could always use adjustment layers to recolour different things. But it's just as easy to by the time I've talked about the fact you could use colour personas, etc. and things, you can actually just go through the whole lot and change the colours. And you don't have to, of course. Now, you can see what I've done. I'm just going through, and I could continue. However, of course, I did create one earlier. So you got this design earlier. And even there, it's not perfect because you got this blue. It's very, very close. Now, you could, of course, create a pattern. Then if you create a pattern design, so you can save this, you can go up to File and say Save As, or maybe Export, and you could save it as a pattern. But if you want to do that, best to avoid making certain that none of the edges are the same. So you can make certain when you look around that there's nothing that's sort of going to end up like purple there, purple there. So it's just carefully go through it and do it a few times just to check that you've got all the colours so they're as random as possible. I say then you could of course go to File and Export, and you could bring it in as a pattern. Perfectly reasonable. Or maybe export it so you can use it in like Photoshop or another application. But what you can also do, of course, is just a layer. So if you just go to Layers, so here's Layers, and that's in View and Studio and Layers. Here's Layers. What you can do, you can select all of the layers. Not just that one, select the lot. Every single one selected. Now they're all selected. What you can do, of course, you can then go to maybe Merge Visible. So all merged in, obviously they're still existing, so you can always remove that if you don't want those ones. So you can just go there and you can then just delete them all. So you've got your grid, and what you can of course do, you can then manipulate this grid. Now of course you can also just go View if you don't want the actual grid, so Show Grid. So you've got this nice design here that you can then manipulate, change like that, maybe undo, and you can also apply effects to it. Maybe go to Filter and Distort, maybe Deform. So you can just add some deforms there, and you can manipulate your design to create a very interesting sort of warped colour design like that. Or use mirror, or use other things. And of course, as I mentioned, what you can do, you've got cut options here. So you've got liquify, develop, sonnet and toning. So you could go for that. Click toning, and you can tweak it using this feature. Now personally, I think it's quite nice, but you can also, another option, I'm just going to go back, you can manipulate it here, which is building up. So you can see, you can change the colours there. I have to say, I don't use this as much in Affinity Photo, so it's not a feature, but it's got quite a lot of options, and it's worth checking out, white balance, shadow and highlights, if that's what you want to do. Another option, yes, please want to come out of there. What you can do, of course, it's a layer. What you can do, you can add a layer, new adjustment layer, and then you can just add some of these. So maybe go for recolor. Now, of course, it's going to change the color for the whole thing. And you can go maybe for blending modes, dark color, or color burn. So you can create some interesting different colors just by using the combination. Of course, there's many others as well, difference, etc. And of course, you can modify lightness just to get a whole range of different colors for that layer. Sometimes, of course, you end up, because you've got colors that are very similar, obviously the lightness has changed, you ended up with them becoming very black there. However, you can always, of course, go over to your layers, and if you don't want that one, you can always remove it, of course. So you can get rid of it, and then you go to layer and adjustments again and modify it that way. And there's, of course, LUTs, color balance, selected color, and HSL is another one. And you can tweak the colors that way. Change brightness there, light, luminosity, etc. Well, hope you found this tutorial of interest. Please subscribe to the Graphic Extra channel. Always adding new tutorials about Affinity Photo, Affinity Designer, Photoshop, Illustrator, Painter, and many others. Also, please add some comments. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? What things you think maybe I should explain better in this video, as well as, of course, any other of the videos. Also, a dislike or like. Thank you much.